out from the children of freedom, every race and every nation, singing out, singing new hallelujah. Let us sing love to the nations, bringing hope of the grace that has freed us. Make Him known and make Him famous. Sing it out, sing a new hallelujah. Everyone sing a new hallelujah. Arise, let the church arise. Let love reach to the other side. Let the world see a new hallelujah.
While the praise team is getting ready to sing the next song, I also want to mention to you that there are, Alicia Markham is in the business of creating stylish clothing, and there are t-shirts and some other items on the table back there that she created to donate to raise money for Patty's funerals. So if there's anything on that table that you would like to buy, please buy it, leave the money behind. It all goes to Patty's funeral.
cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. We fall down, we lay our crowns at the feet of Jesus. The greatness of your mercy and love at the feet of Jesus. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy. We cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lamb. Is the Lamb. Is the
No, we're folding boxes.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your perfect love is casting out fear. And even when I'm caught in the middle of the storms of this life, I won't turn back, I know you are near. I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? No, no, never let go. Through the calm and through the
much. Please be seated. This morning we bring our 9-week series of sermons on the Ten Commandments to a close. This morning's message is entitled, Creature, Not Creator. As I was preparing for this message, I found a couple of versions of the Ten Commandments that I thought you might enjoy. And the first of those is called the Jeff Foxworthy translation of the Ten Commandments. In case you don't know, he's a redneck comedian. And because I did these 10 to 1 as I preached, I'm going to do these two versions 10 to 1. Number 10, don't be hankering for your buddy's stuff. Number 9, don't be telling tall tales or yapping about somebody. Number 8, don't take what ain't yours. Number 7, don't be fooling around with another fellow's gal. Number 6, no killing, never, period. Number 5, treat your mom and pa good like they was God. Number 4, get yourself to Sunday meeting. Number 3, watch your mouth. Number 2, ain't but one God. Number 1, if you're smart, you make nothing more important than God. That's pretty succinct. I think that sums it up pretty well. Then I found the 10 Commandments according to American culture. The 10 Commandments according to American culture. These are phrases taken out of our everyday conversation and translated into what do they mean in terms of behavior. Number 10, God helps them who helps themselves, so work as hard as you can. Number 9, rules are made to be broken, so think for yourself and do whatever seems right to you. Number 8, time is money, so don't waste time. Try to help anybody. Number 7, enough is enough, so stand up for yourself in all situations. Number 6, no pain, no gain, so get tough and stop whining. Number 5, just do it, so pursue your dreams. Number 4, shop till you drop, so keep signing up for more credit cards. Number 3, time flies when you're having fun, so have lots of fun. Number 2, live and let live, so be tolerant. No one has the answers, least of all you. Number 1, you can't argue with success, so be successful, because that's what it's all about. Those are the 10 Commandments according to American culture. Those are a lot easier to swallow than the ones that God left behind, but unfortunately, we don't get to modify them or change them to fit our moods or our needs. So I'm going to begin this sermon like I've begun all the other 9. So after God created Adam, and he created all the other creatures, Adam was sitting around one day and he realized that all the other creatures have mates, but he didn't. So he went to God and he said, hey God, how about you make me a mate? And God said, well, I'll do that for you. He said, I'm going to create the crown of my creation. She will be someone who will serve you, meet your every need and desire. She'll be the most beautiful and loving creature. She will take care of you, always give you everything that you deserve, the respect and the love and the companionship. She will be the absolute perfect helpmate. I'm just going to have to take an arm and a leg from you to make it happen. Adam says, well, what can I get for a rib? That's why we got what we got. Middle-aged lady had a heart attack. She went in for surgery into the hospital, and she was hovering between life and death. And as she was laying in the hospital bed, she had a vision of God who came beside of her hospital bed. And she said to him, God, am I dying? Am I going to go today? And he said, oh, no, you got 30 more years. Well, she was so encouraged. She recovered from her heart surgery, and while she was there in the hospital, she had a tummy tuck and liposuction and breast implants and hair transplants and collagen injections. I mean, she looked absolutely amazing by the time she came out. Several weeks in the hospital. But she finally came out. She walked out the front door of the hospital, and she immediately was hit by an ambulance and killed. And she appeared before God, and she said, wait a minute, I thought you said I had 30 more years. He said, oh, is that you? All right, we have a lot of ground to cover. That's all the jokes we got. We're going to talk about the First commandment is very easy to understand. It's contained in one verse, Exodus 23. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Well, the two key words to understanding that commandment is the word have and the word God. So we're going to take a moment to look at those two words. The Hebrew word for have is haya, H-A-Y-A-H, haya, okay? I'm looking at Saul and Hannah, and so Saul has Hannah. Saul has Hannah. So is Hannah a possession? Is she a thing? Or is it a relationship that we're talking about? The Hebrew word haya says, like, I have children. I don't possess them. They aren't my things. They are something that I have a relationship with. So the first thing that we need to know about the commandment is God says don't have a relationship with anything or anybody that is more important to you than I am. It's not about possessing a thing and having it on a shelf or an object. It is about having a relationship with something that you value to be more important than the relationship that you have with Him. And then the second key question is the question of God. What does the word God actually mean? Well, the dictionary definition for God is a reference to a deity, something that is, I'm looking for it real quick, a being or object believed to have more than natural attributes and powers to require man's worship, one who controls all or part of reality, a person or a thing of supreme value, the ultimate reality, the ruler of the universe. A God would have to have one of those attributes to fit the definition of God. Now, the society in which the New Testament was written, the first century society, there was Roman culture, then there was Greek culture, and then there were a bunch of other minor cultures. But those two big ones influenced everything that was going on. The Romans had their set of gods and goddesses. The Greeks had their set of gods and goddesses. And then there were a bunch of minor religions worshiping around called the religions of mystery, or the mysterious religions. And so we're talking about a wide variety of gods that were being worshipped and honored in the first century. The commandment says, other gods, don't have any other gods before me. And he's referring to all of the other possibilities in life that you can choose as the most important thing of your life. And again, in the first century, we were competing with a whole bunch of different gods and goddesses. I'm sure you've heard of Zeus and Hermes and Apollo and Cupid and Mars and Jupiter and Venus, and those are all the traditional gods of Rome and Greece. Now, Paul has something to say about this. The first commandment is trying to tell us that there's only one God. I think it's important to note that in the time that the commandments were given, every other civilization said there are multiple gods. There's a God of ground, and a God of sky, and a God of water, and a God of this, and a God of that. And you got to pay attention to all of them. And Israel came along and said, there's only one, Yahweh, Jehovah. There is only one. They were unique in the history of humankind. They were the unique culture to say there's only one God. That in itself should draw our attention. That should command us to say, wait a minute. How did they come up with this idea of a single God? Where did that come from? All of the other cultures, all of the other humanity said, oh, there's all these different gods. But Israel said there's only one. How did they come up with that? Well, maybe it's true. And this commandment says, I don't want other gods to be ahead of me. Paul has something to say about this. The Corinthian church was drifting back towards this multiple God worship idea. And so Paul wrote a letter to the Corinthians. This is from Corinthians 1:8, beginning at verse 4. Therefore, as to the eating of food offered to idols, we know that an idol has no real existence, that there is no God but one. For although there may be so-called gods in heaven and or earth, on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet not for us, for there is only one God, the Father, from whom are all things, and for whom we exist, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, through him, through all things, are all things, and through whom we exist. Paul is emphasizing there is one God and one God only. Now, there's a couple of things this morning. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of information at you, but there's two things that I want you to grab and take home. And here's the first one, okay? Everyone has a God. Everyone has a God. Whether you realize it or not, you choose a God. By definition, what is a God? Something that is of supreme value to me. Something that I depend on, that I chase, that I pursue. Something I invest my life and my time and my treasure to achieve. That thing that I have made, the most important thing of my life, is my God. We are designed as human beings to have a God. We have to have a God. We are designed for worship. We have to worship something. Our lives, we will go into the insane asylum if we don't worship something. That's how we're designed. And so everybody worships something. Maybe you don't bow down, maybe you don't give money, maybe you don't light candles to it, but you make it the most important thing of your life. And that's what he's saying. We choose something to be our God. And the first thing I want you to recognize is that is a truth. It is not an opinion. I want you to honor the fact and recognize you have a God. And so the goal of today, or this week, is for you to identify what is your God. We can't compare our life to the first commandment and see whether we're obeying it or disobeying it until we identify what our God is. That's kind of the goal of the exercise this morning. What or who is our God? We all have a God. We have to have a God. Now here's what the commandment says. Here is a modern English personal, this is spoken as if this was God. This is the first commandment from God's point of view in God's voice. I am Jehovah. I am who I am. I am the unchanging being. There is only me. I am the creator of all humanity. I am the redeemer of all humanity. I am the sustainer of all humanity. I am the sanctifier of all humanity. There is nothing out there but me. And I will not tolerate one of my creatures, whom I created, choosing to worship something else other than me. And if you think you're going to get away with it, you're wrong. Unquote. I like that. I think that is a very powerful, very pointed interpretation of the first commandment. Do you understand there is nothing else out there but Him? There isn't anything else out. In terms of mystery and spirit, there is nothing else out there. I mean, just pause for a moment and soak yourself entirely in logic. Okay, so Patty leaves this world, and after her last breath, she smiles. Why? Because all the pain is gone? She wasn't in pain anyway. She had enough medications in her, she wasn't in pain. So why'd she smile? Because she saw where she was going. And she had enough connection left to this world to smile. To reaffirm to us that it is true that God is all there is. I want you to understand that our obedience or disobedience of this commandment determines the course of our life. And I want you to hear clearly what it means if we make something more important than God. We are giving God the finger. We are telling Him, we don't care. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you claim to be. We're telling Him, you're not even there. I don't even believe in you. It's just all a joke. And God says, oh yeah? There will be consequences one day. As I preached before, and I just want to emphasize again, the study of human history reveals that every society that ever left behind a written history of their culture left behind a record of trying to worship and talk to a God. And that should speak very deeply into our hearts. To the truth of what I'm trying to tell you this morning, we have to have a God. And it's really important that we identify what that God is. All right, I'm going to introduce you to 7 of the god and goddesses that existed in Rome. And I'm going to suggest to you that we still worship these 7 gods and goddesses. I'm going to try to do this quickly so you don't fall asleep on me. But here's the first of the 7 gods. I think this is America's #1 goddess. All right, her name is Abundantia, from which we get the word abundant. And she is the Roman goddess of abundance and prosperity. prosperity. If we were to get on a bus and go to Keystone Mall, which is the only real mall I know of, I'm sure there's others. But if we were all to go to the Keystone Mall and get out, and I ask you to, we're going to stop the next 10 people that walk by, and we're going to ask them this question: what do you need to be happy? What do you need to be satisfied with your life? What would it take for you to be really happy? According to American statistics, Barna in particular, 7 out of the 10 people that we would ask would say, they would say something about money. They would say, if I just won the lottery, or if I had more money than I have now, if I had a few more $1,000s, if I had a better job, if I could get back to my job, if I just had more money, I would be happy. Because we have been trained in America to believe that money will satisfy all of our problems. Money's the answer. We just need money. That's the goddess of prosperity and wealth. It's been several years ago now, I don't remember when, but I happened upon a book that was written by a newspaper reporter, and the book was his research into the first 25 people who won huge lotteries. Couldn't think of the word I wanted right there. The first 25 winners of gigantic, amazing, enormous amounts of money. He followed them for 10 years. And his goal was to see who was happy. Who would say, I'm happy, after 10 years of winning the lottery, okay? Of those 25 people he followed, 7 of them had committed suicide within 10 years. What? They have millions and millions of dollars. Why would they commit suicide? Because they were convinced, once I surround myself with, I got money, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be fulfilled. I'm going to have a sense of purpose. And then they had all that money, and they bought all the things they wanted, and they went all the places they wanted to go, and after 10 years, guess what? It didn't make them happy. It didn't give them a sense of purpose. It didn't fulfill them. And they said, well, there's nothing left. Now you're probably thinking, I wouldn't do that. Just give me the chance. I'll prove to you I wouldn't do that. Unfortunately, statistics say you're wrong. You would. Money is not the key to fulfillment, although many people think it was. But 7 of those who committed suicide, who had money, committed suicide. 18 of those, of the 18 who lived, 13 divorced their spouse of long term. Because I got money now. I can have a good wife. I mean, I get myself one of those pretty wives, you know? I mean, what? And did they end up happy? No. 6 of them ended up in jail because they thought, I got money, I can do anything I want. Who's going to stop me? I'm a millionaire. One of those 25 went insane because he made the mistake of opening every piece of mail he got and reading it. You know what kind of letters he got? My daddy is he's dying of cancer, I need an operation, I need $3,500. Story after story after story after story of people who desperately, frantically needed money and just destroyed it. It just crushed his heart. Of the 25 people that were interviewed after 10 years, 1 and 1 only said he was happier because he'd won the money. He's the only one who set up a trust. He's the only one who spent every day of his life trying to use that money to make the world a better place and to help people. And he said he was happy. I share all that with you because I want you to know that worshiping the God of wealth and prosperity will not lead to a happy life. The second Roman, and I need you to answer the question, is that your God? Is that your goddess? Is that the goal of life? The second Roman god I want to introduce you to is the one called Honus, H-O-N-O-S. He is the god of honor and self. He is the patron saint of the younger 2 generations, in my opinion. I don't mean any disrespect if you fall in those categories. But everywhere you read, everywhere you go, it's all about me. It's all about me. That is the God of honor and self. And I think that is the second most important God in America. It is all about me. If we were to, of those 3, of the 10 people we stopped in the Keystone Mall, 3 of those people, of those remaining 3, 2 of them would say it's all about me. At least statistically, that's what the answer we would find. How can we know if we're one of those people who would think that life is all about me? Well, do you chase the latest in fashion, or the latest in technology, and the latest in automobiles, or do we find ourselves doing something or considering something because we say, you know, I deserve it, I'm worth it, you know? I earned that money, I deserve to do this or do that or buy this or buy that. If we are truthful, we all have moments when we have that kind of attitude, but if that attitude dominates our lives, we are worshiping the God of self. The question I want to ask you this morning, that you ask yourself, is me and my needs and wants the most important thing in your life? Is that your God? The third Roman god I want to introduce you to is a guy named Bacchus, which you may have heard before, and his female counterpart is called Voluptas. They are the god and goddess of pleasure, wine, food, sensual in things. I think America worships the idea of feeling good. You know, I want to feel good. I found some phrases that we use in common language that would suggest the truth of what I'm saying. If it feels good, do it. These are slogans actually from ads. If it feels good, do it. You only go around once. Grab for all the gusto you can reach. Life is short. Enjoy it to the fullest. Life is a one-time offer. Use it the best way you can. I can, so I will. Marketing slogans designed to sell you a product or get you to do something, engage a service. Because after all, it's really about feeling good, isn't it? Come on. Right? Chocolate. That's why chocolate was made, so I can feel good. Today, we treat everything as something that we need to feel good. I think I challenge you to start watching television commercials and ads and such. See how many of them, in some way, tell you that this product or this service is going to make you feel good. Just mark my words. Pay attention to that. See how many of them over this week you come up against. I'm sure that when you see a wine ad or a beer ad or an alcohol, they're going to tell you that this will make you more popular, or they're going to suggest that, or it's going to make you more relaxed. If you see an ad for smoking, it's going to make you suggest that it's more sophisticated, more manly, more worldly if you smoke. No. It's not about feelings. Life should not be about pleasure. If you worship the God of pleasure, you're worshiping Bacchus or Voluptas. And so the question I asked you this morning, is pleasure the goal of life? Is that your God? Well, have you escaped so far? Have I stepped on your toes yet? All right, let's go a little deeper. How about I introduce you to the goddess of victory? Now, I got to pull my toes in here, because, okay, this one's going to get me. Do you worship the goddess of victory? Well, what does that mean, Pastor? I'm not all hung up on winning everything. Well, what do you feel when you win? Okay? I used to play a lot of tennis and a lot of golf and a lot of table tennis, and I used to win a lot, and it's a really good feeling because I won and you lost, and that makes me feel really good. I'm better than you because I just beat you. It's a feeling of power and a feeling of control and a feeling of ego and satisfaction. That's the goddess of victory. Is it all about winning? Is it all about, are you a competitive person? Is it all about beating the other person in some way? And there are people, that's the goal of their life, is they want to just beat you in any way, shape, or form. You know, I got a dog that will do this and do that. Yeah, well, I got a dog that will go get me baby breakfast. And that's all about victory. I'm trying to show you how much better my dog is than yours. That's worshiping the goddess of victory and control. I gave you a survey this morning, and I think it's a fun survey, but it's also very truthful. So if you took it, we're going to talk about that for about 30 seconds here. Here's the key to that survey. If you answered yes 0 to 3 times, you are a very, very agreeable person. You are compromised in almost every situation, and I'm telling you that is not healthy. And I'll tell you why before we're done. If you said yes 4 to 7 times, you are normal. If you said yes 8 to 10 times, you're a control freak. And if you said yes 11 to 13 times, you are a super control freak, and you're living with the one who answered 0 to 3. Because that's the only person on the earth who will put up with you. And that's not healthy. Those are two extremes that are not healthy. It's a true test. It's a psychological test. It comes from Psychological America Today. That's not the right word. But anyway, it's from a website that they dedicate themselves to finding the right answers by asking the right questions. You know the problem with being a person of victory, a competitive spirit, or somebody who wants to be in control? What's the first thing you've got to do if you want to come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior? I've taught you this many, many times. What's the first thing you have to do?
Submit.
I heard it.
Submit.
Admit. Did you admit or commit?
Submit.
Commit. All right, I'm looking for admit.
Submit.
Admit that you're a sinner. If you,
Submit.
huh?
Submit.
I'm sorry, I hear you so bad. But if you're a control freak, how easy is it going to be for you to say, you know what, I can't save myself. I need help. I'm a sinner. That's the first thing. You've got to give up control of Jesus Christ. That's why people who worship at this feet of this god or goddess struggle to come to know Jesus Christ, because they have to give up power and they have to give up control. The question I'm asking you this morning is, do you worship at the feet of victory? Are you a control freak? Because I think a lot of America is. Now I'd like to introduce you to the goddess of fame, whose name is Fama. Fama. You could also say this is the goddess of achievement, or recognition, or status. Can you think of anybody in America whose show got canceled recently who worship status? Bunch of sisters. Name starts with K. Kardashians. What were they famous for? Being famous. What did they want? What was the whole point of that show? Look at me.
Yep.
I'm more beautiful than you are. I got more money than you do. I got fancier clothes than you do. It's all about status. It's all about fame, about recognition. And you know what's wrong with that? Okay? This is the real problem with people who seek recognition or fame, who want the most followers on social media, who want to be a social media influencer. Here's the thing. Here's what you're saying. Worship me. Worship me. I'm pretty amazing. You should do what I do. You should do what I say. Worship me. That's what a social influencer, that's what somebody who wants fame and recognition, somebody who's worshiping at the feet of Fama, they say, I want to be the god. I want to be the goddess that you worship. Isn't that what the Kardashians wanted? They wanted you to love them, idolize them, want to be like them, buy their things. Is that the goal of your life? I'm asking you to work on this. Think about this. Here's goddess number 6, Juventus. Juventus. It's the goddess of youth. They'll do anything and everything to stay young and youthful. That's what keeps the plastic surgeons busy. That's what keeps all the makers of those creams and lotions. Ladies, if you'll just put this under your eyes every day for the next 180 years, you will look beautiful. And you'll look 10 years younger, or 20 years younger, or 50 years younger. In fact, if you're 18 and you'll just disappear. You'll be so young. That's what they're selling you. They're selling you youth. I myself am only 40 years old. I hope you didn't know if you knew that or not, you know? That's a lie. I don't have more time to go into Juventus, but I'm going to skip and go on. The last goddess that I think America worships is Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. Love and beauty goes hand in hand with Juventus and Bacchus. I want to look good. That's my God. I want to look good. You can tell that right away, right? I'm joking. But there's also 2 more gods that are minor that I didn't want to spend any time with this morning. There's truly a Roman goddess called Securitas, from which we get the word security, and the goddess of Tranquillus, from which we get the word tranquility or peace. There are people who just want to live life peacefully. Just leave me alone. That's the goal of life, is to live peacefully. I don't want any conflict. I don't want any fights or arguments. Let's just live in peace. Right? That's the goddess of Tranquillus. Now the point I'm trying to make is this. The first commandment says, don't have a relationship with anyone or anything that you make more important than me. And so understanding that we all have a God, we have to have a God, we're wired to have a God, and we've got a God. So I want you to identify what is your God or your goddess. Maybe I didn't identify with the 7 that I think are the highest gods and goddesses in America. Maybe it's something else. But you can't figure out whether you're obeying the first commandment until you figure out what or who is your God. And that's the goal of this morning's exercise. I want you to walk out of here. If you haven't already identified it, I want you to walk out of here and figure out in the next 7 days who or what is your God. Meaning, what is your goal in life? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to achieve? I want to close with a true story. There's a wonderful painting of this story, and I'm going to ask Scott to put it up for you as I read the story. There was a little 9-year-old girl who lived on a farm with her mother and father, and she loved horses. And they had cattle. It was a dairy farm, and they had to take hay out to the cows during the winter. And one day the ice and the snow was so deep and the cold was so intense he couldn't get the tractor started. So he decided he would get the horses out and he would take hay to the dairy cows the old-fashioned way. Put the hay on the back of the wagon and took them out. And he asked the little 9-year-old girl if she would like to go along with him. And so they went out to the pasture and he threw bales of hay out to the cows. And then as they were coming home, the father said to his little daughter, "Would you like to drive the horses?" And her heart just leaped in her chest. "Yes, Daddy." And he showed her how to hold the reins and what to say, and off they went, And the horses were just plodding along, walking through the snow. And she was having a great time with that. And then she got bored with that, Let's go faster. And so she shook the reins and Dad repeated what her dad said to the horses, and they started picking up the pace a little bit, And they got about halfway back, and they began to smell the barn. I don't know if you've ever been around horses that smell the barn. But all of a sudden, "Oh boy, we're going to the barn." And they stopped just walking, and they started galloping. And they were running through the snow, going at a pace that made the wagon rattle and shake. And this little girl is bouncing over the seat, and she's hanging on with the reins and trying to hang on. She's trying to, whoa, whoa, whoa. And she's trying to get them to slow down. They're not slowing down, boy. They're going to the barn. And she looks over at her daddy, and she's sure his daddy's going to help her. He's looking at the scenery. He's not even paying attention to her. And panic fills her heart. And her hands are starting to get scraped with the leather, and she's yelling and screaming. And then she cries. She begs the horses to stop, and they still keep running. And finally, in desperation, she couldn't think of anything else to say or do. Finally, she turns and she says to her daddy, with tears rolling down her face, "I don't want to drive anymore, Daddy." Understand the point of the lesson, of the illustration? As long as you're holding the reins, kids, you're going your way, and you're on your own. You're chasing whatever you think is important. You're taking that team of horses whatever direction you think your God is. And God's just sitting over there going, "Well, maybe someday they'll give up. Ask me." If you're holding the reins, if you're in control, you're going to go your own way, you're going to do your own thing, and one day there's going to be a real awakening. And when you pass through the curtain of time, there won't be a smile on your face. There'll be a look of terror. Because if we make anything other than God our God, there'll be a day when we have to pay for it. For life to have any meaning, our God has got to be number one. Number one. And as long as we're holding the reins, our lives will not be good. I pray that you identify what it is that you have considered to be the God or goddess of your life. Let's bow our heads. Holy Father, I ask for your help in teaching and bringing this message home to help them understand that you designed us to worship something. We all need to worship something. We all need a God. We have all chosen something as God. We all have. But the critical question is what? What have we chosen? Because you said you want to be first. You created us for you. You wanted our relationship with you to be first. And in so doing, we'll get everything else we want and need. I pray, Father, for your help in helping these folks identify what is the God or goddess that they are devoting their lives to, and help them to realize it's time to hand the reins over and give their lives to you. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. The hour is late. I wish you the best of days. If you would please take home some soup or sandwiches or desserts. If you don't, they'll go to waste. So please take advantage of that. Thank you for being here. God bless.